You know, it's kind of crazy to think that out of the two live-action Dr. Seuss adaptation movies, this is the less chaotic of the two.
Dirty hoe! I'm sorry, baby. I love you.
Merry Christmas, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today, our Christmas movie in the middle is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is the live-action telling of Dr. Seuss's classic Christmas tale, following the Grinch as he suffers through jubilations and ultimately steals Christmas. It stars Jim Carrey, Taylor Momsen, Molly Shannon, Bill Irwin, Christina Baranski, and Jeffrey Tambor. So as I said before, I have about 6 Christmas movies that I definitely want to watch every single year, although that list has actually been growing as of late. But this is one of the original 6. And not only is it one that I have to watch every year, but it is one of the earliest movies I can cite as a reason I fell in love with filmmaking. I loved watching the behind the scenes every single year. I don't know what it was about this one, but every year I would look forward to not only watching the movie, but watching all of the behind the scenes. Specifically of how they created all the effects, designed the sets, did the makeup, all the unfinished deleted scenes specifically. I really liked watching those, and I'm not sure why in particular. But just bridging that gap between a finished movie and how you create it. Now, I have to admit, I do like this one a lot because I did watch it growing up as a kid, so a lot of it seems pretty normal to me. At least it did for a long time. But I can completely understand when people say that they don't like it, they don't like what they did with the special, they think it's too overdone or weird or Jim Carrey overdid it. I can completely understand that. But for me, growing up watching it, it didn't seem as weird for a long time. But I will say it's definitely gotten more popular and grown in people's love for it since its release. I want to say it's something maybe one step above a cult classic, and it definitely has gotten more into pop culture and other forms of media that isn't just the movie itself.
All of those sounds that are trapped in your mind.
Starting off with the highs, obviously the Grinch himself and Jim Carrey. For as expressive as Jim Carrey is, only very minimal times throughout this movie can you actually see him under that makeup. Obviously the Grinch has a lot of very expressive faces, but it's so hard to see Jim Carrey under all that makeup. And it's incredible what he was able to do with it, and more so, the fact that he really didn't want to do this from day one. Apparently, it would take him roughly 8 hours, or at least the first couple days, it took about 8 hours to get into the makeup. I mean, I don't even know how you do that, and how you shoot for a whole day after that. Like, that just blows my mind. It's almost too much. But he was ready to just can it after the first day. And they brought in a Navy SEAL who is experienced in dealing with torture to basically teach Jim Carrey how to deal with this makeup for 100 days. He did this for 100 days. That is crazy.
He said, eat everything you see. And if you're freaking out and you start to spiral downward, turn the television on, change a pattern, have someone you know come up and smack you in the head. It was horrifying. It was just like, it's for the kids, it's for the kids, it's for the kids.
But the Grinch himself, I think, was a really, really good take on this character. I love him. He is relatable as hell. He's funny, he's sarcastic, he's angry at the world, but he knows how to relax and eat straight from the bottle. And most importantly, like all of us, he stresses about his schedule.
4 o'clock, wallow in self-pity. 4:30, stare into the abyss. 5 o'clock, solve world hunger. Tell no one. 5:30, jazzercise. 6:30, dinner with me. I can't cancel that again. 7 o'clock, wrestle with my self-loathing. I'm booked.
I also like here that while sometimes he's portrayed as genuinely scary, a lot of times he thinks he's scary, and he's not really, or a lot of people don't take it seriously. Most of the Who's do, obviously, the big jubilation fiasco. He tries to put himself out there as this really scary entity. But the thing is he's more so just kind of a dorky grouch, and it comes off really funny, especially when he has to get into these social situations, and you find out that he's not really evil, he's just kind of a dork.
I, ordered from the catalog, but they're all backed up and stuff.
But one thing that I really like that they added to this character that I don't really think is in the special is the fact that he has a genuine reason to hate Christmas. Not only this whole flashback, obviously, that they have where he had a crush on Martha May and then he got embarrassed and all this stuff, that's really great. But he's so annoyed by the greed and the fakeness of Christmas. So I thought that was a really great way to take the character. Also, the production design of the world and being able to flesh out Whoville a lot more was really, really cool. Obviously, all of the architecture, all the curves, and the weird structures of all the buildings, and all of the reds and greens, and there's snow everywhere. It obviously gives this whole Christmas feel, and a Dr. Seuss Christmas feel at that. And not just Whoville, but the Grinch's lair itself, with all these moving parts, these cogs, all these weird toys and technologies that he has. It's almost like a really creepy factory. But also, I really like that they were able to add more to the Who's daily lives, because it's kind of like in Nightmare Before Christmas, you know, like all their lives are spent looking forward to Halloween and preparing for Halloween. And in this one, it's the same, but for Christmas. And I like how they give, like, okay, well, what would they do for the other 364 days of the year? And they give all of these activities and things that they do, specifically, obviously buying gifts, having Christmas store sales, different contests, and the jubilations and the whobilations, like lighting contests, fudge, eggnog, all of this. It was very, very cool. Obviously, it's very close to Christmas, so you know, we kind of don't know exactly what they do for the other days of the year, but you can kind of guess it's just prepping for this. And so it gets so chaotic, and there's so many people and such hustle and bustle going on around this holiday. It was really cool to see all that. Plus, the look for them turned out really great, especially considering we've seen what can happen when you try to transform actors into humanoids for movies. It doesn't always work out so well. And I just think that it's really funny, the level of fear that they have of the Grinch, to the point where, like, you know, there's this weird relationship where they're always kind of looking up and just like, we're not going to talk about it and ignore them. You know, if somebody goes even close to it, they're like, what were you doing up there? And to the point where there's this moment, which is one of my favorite moments in the movie.
I think they were just up on the mountain playing with matches or defacing public property or...
Oh, well... That's a relief.
And I think that's the funniest thing. Which brings me to my next point, which is that this movie is hilarious. That's one of the main reasons we watch it every year, is because it's so funny.
I'm going to whisper so that by the time my voice reverberates off the walls and gets back to me, I won't be able to hear it. You're an idiot! It's because I'm green, isn't it?
Hey, honey! Our baby's here! He looks just like your boss.
You did the right thing!
It's gonna blow!
A lot of the humor is a little bit more adult, or maybe highbrow in some cases, not all of it for sure. There's just a lot of these jokes that you don't really get until you're a little bit older, and that makes it funny when you're watching as a kid and when you're watching it as an adult, which is the perfect type of comedy. And of course, it has its wholesome Christmas moments. This is obviously based off of the special, so it's gonna have to have those nice endings, those nice Christmas messages, and they really do it well. The music swells at the end, he picks up Cindy Lou, all this stuff. It's really, really great, but also throughout you can see that there's like a little bit more depth to these characters. Like, the Grinch wants to have a good Christmas, he just doesn't, know it, or doesn't want to accept it. And then all the Who's having all of this fun Christmas celebrations, but then at the end they also realize that all they need is their family. So, it's obviously, it's got all these like pretty generic Christmas themes, but they do it really well. My big middle for the movie, and something that is probably the most standout part of this movie, I would say, the thing that you can really see the most, it's kind of creepy. This movie's a little bit eerie, and I'm not quite sure why they did it this way. Like, the look of it, even though it's really cool, they have, like, this weird sheen over it. Like, it's all hazy. Like, yeah, they're in a snowflake and it's winter, so that's probably why. But still, and even the music is really odd at certain points. Like, all of it just adds to this aesthetic that's a little bit weird and eerie. And yes, it's Dr. Seuss, you can get weird. But, I don't know, for some reason it's just a little bit scary. And I'm not gonna lie, that might be part of the reason that I was so keen on watching all the behind the scenes, is because a lot of it seemed kind of eerie to me, especially like that weird uncanny valley of like watching a movie but also watching them make the movie. I don't know if you're gonna get this. I think there's a lot of people I've seen who have said something like this, but it's like when you would be sitting there while the Scene It menu music was playing. Is that just me, or was that scary as hell? Like, I don't know why. There's something about it I still don't know. I'm looking into it. It was like that, watching this uncanny, weird behind the scenes of this movie. That's a little bit creepy.
Hey guys, so I'm editing this video and I just wanted to interject real quick because there was something that I forgot to mention in regards to the deleted scenes, which is there was this one in particular that even when they play the extended edition with the deleted scenes on the ABC Family / Freeform, whatever it is now, there's one that they never put in there, and I just want to know, comment down below if you remember this one. It's this deleted scene.
Fine workmanship.
And it always scared the crap out of me because of his face, and then it just falls over. I don't know what it was about it, but it was just something about this deleted scene in particular that was just so... It just embodied how creepy this stuff was.
And I think that may have been the basis for me really liking horror movies, that thrill. It's really weird that I'm talking about this with the Grinch movie. But it's just something about this movie, like I said before, it's a little bit more adult. I don't want to say it's like mean-spirited or cynical, but it definitely feels like it has a little bit of that underneath, like a layer underneath. And what's crazy is that out of the 2 live-action Dr. Seuss movies, this one, it's not even hidden as much. The Cat in the Hat has that, and probably more so, but it hides it more. This one is very on its face about how creepy and weird it is. Like, it's just got all these, like, adult jokes, adult swearing, just all these moments that maybe you can appreciate more as an adult, but also kind of scare you as a kid.
Santa, what's Christmas really about?
Vengeance!
And the only reason it's a middle is because it doesn't really bother me, and like I've gotten used to it now, but I can definitely see how people would be like, this is weird and I don't like this adaptation or interpretation of the book. My only low for the movie, and I mean I guess it's kind of a low, like the pacing is really weird at times. You know, obviously they're basing this off of a special, so they had to fluff it, they had to put a lot more stuff in it, and I know I'm kind of a hypocrite because I did say last year in my Polar Express review that the fluffiness was fine. For this one, it definitely adds a lot, and I really, really like it, don't get me wrong. The reason it's a low, though, and it's kind of funny, is the first half I love. I think it's really funny, it's really fun, it's got all this stuff. When it gets to the actual part that's the real story of the Grinch, like he goes to steal the presents, I can't tell if I'm, like, a little bored sometimes. Probably because it's not as funny, and I'm there for the funny parts, the adult humor parts. But then it's actually just like the regular story. Don't get me wrong, they do that whole thing really, really well, like the entire actual stealing Christmas part. I just think it's funny that, like, I end up kind of checking out just a little bit because it's just the regular part of the story, and because it's not the regular special where I have a specific feeling about that part. I don't know, I'm not as into it, I guess, as the beginning parts. So overall, is How the Grinch Stole Christmas a good adaptation of the special and of the book? In some respects, I think yes. I think that they did a really good job in showing what's actually from the book in the movie. I think they did a really good job of portraying, like, the Who's and their excitement, and obviously the Grinch himself. And in some respects, I think not so much. I think that they really took some liberties with it, not just in terms of the plot, but in terms of the feel and the vibe of it, and making it kind of creepy and eerie. And I think that no matter what, they did something really unique with this. They've made it different, and I can't put my finger on exactly what I feel about it sometimes, but it's definitely different and I definitely love it. Right down to Anthony Hopkins' iconic voiceover. Plus, they did Max perfectly. He's such a good boy. I'm going to give How the Grinch Stole Christmas a 3 out of 4. Well, guys, let me know what you think of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. How does it compare to the book, to the special, to the new 2018 Grinch? I say new as if that wasn't almost 7 years ago. And I hope you guys have a really great holiday, a very Merry Christmas with family and friends. And I hope nobody steals your presents unless it's Morbius on Blu-ray. It's the only exception. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and Christmas right in the middle. I'll see you guys later.